Welcome back to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Before the break, I asked you the trivial question of the day. Where is Toba located?
Option A, China. Option B, Indonesia. Option C, United States.
And the answer is option B, Indonesia. From the steep initial drop, average global temperature recovered gradually, approaching pre-eruption levels only after 2 decades. As powerful as the Yellowstone eruption was, it still does not approach the greatest supervolcanoes in history.
This is Toba, a large mountain lake on the Indonesian island of Sumatra. It's the crater left behind by a super eruption thousands of years ago. What made Toba super is the sheer scale of the eruption. Over 14 terrible days, Toba blasted 2,800 cubic kilometers of material into the air. That's almost 3 times Yellowstone. Its grim aftermath was a global cataclysm, including a global cold spell and persistent drought. One theory holds that Toba brought the human species perilously close to extinction. What caused the catastrophe on this scale? The answer takes us back to the birth of our sun, around 5 billion years ago. It began in a swirl of debris likely drawn together by shock waves from a stellar explosion. Amid the chaos of the early solar system, gravity threw clumps of rock and dust and gas together. A fiery young planet from molten at first. Millions of years passed, the Earth's surface gradually cooled, but its interior remained hot. Add to that heat generated deep within the planet by a radioactive decay of uranium, thorium, and potassium. To this day, heat energy is rising steadily from Earth's interior, a vivid reminder to the fires that burn inside it. The heat makes its way to the surface through a vast middle region called the mantle. It punches through where Earth's crust is thinnest in the middle of the ocean, that cause massive plates that line the surface of the planet to push apart, often flooding the earth floor with lava. These oceanic plates collide with thicker continental plates that drive them down into the earth along with volcanoes' secret ingredients, water.
Some rocks, when mixed with water, melt more readily. They form a reservoir of magma deep below ground. As more magma enters the reservoir, the pressure increases. That forces magma up to the surface and a volcano erupts. A supervolcano like Toba or Yellowstone begins with a much larger reservoir of magma. A recent study showed that the larger it gets, the more buoyant the magma becomes amid the solid crustal rocks that surrounds it.
Over time, this buoyant reservoir pushes up on the terrain above it. The rock above the magma brings to break. Channels or dikes form to release the rising magma. The land collapses onto the magma, helping to propel it up and out. The volcano does not so much erupt as it explodes. The thermal features that dot Yellowstone are small in scale, yet they too are fueled by an immense dome of magma deep underground.
By tracking the pattern of seismic waves from small earthquakes, scientists have been able to follow it down to its source. A kilometer below, surface water enters layers of heated rock, then shook back to the Earth's surface in hot springs and geysers. Deeper still 10 kilometers down, they have located the upper reach of an immense reservoir of magma. It measures over 100 kilometers wide and 400 kilometers deep. Scientists now believe it's partly the result of the Pacific Ocean plate dividing below North America and partly the product of a hot spot. It's similar to a deep plume of magma that fuels Hawaii's volcanoes. Over the hundreds of years, as the continent of North America has moved inch by inch over the Yellowstone hotspot, the volcano has reawakened time and again. The next of the last time it ejected 5,000 cubic kilometers of materials into the atmosphere, almost twice as much as Toba. Toba is almost have erupted at least 3 times in the last thousands of years. There are signs that it's gearing up for another. Some parts of caldera, including a large island in the middle called Samosir, have risen due to a refilling the magma chamber. Indonesian scientists recently reported they have detected its presence starting at a depth of 20 to 100 kilometers down. The volcano is not active now, but it's in one of the most geologically active regions in the world, including the nearby Samartan Fault and the Samartan Subduction Zone. This region is known as major earthquakes and a string of volcanoes including Krakatoa and Tambora. If or when Toba does erupt again, it still won't hold a candle to Earth's greatest eruptions.
Roll back the geological clock to a time around thousands of years ago, a giant asteroid slammed into the Earth. It wreaked havoc on the climate and may have led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. The impact coincided with another type of catastrophe. That was a time when today's continents were taking shape. The Himalayan mountains were beginning to rise and India had not yet crashed into Asia. In central India, one of the largest volcanic structures on earth made its presence felt.
From the so-called Deccan Traps, the earth literally split in cuts. Over a period lasting perhaps thousands of years, 500,000 cubic kilometers of lava flooded onto the Indian landscape. The Deccan Traps eruption was about 500 times larger than the last Yellowstone eruption. An even larger, more destructive event occurred around thousands of years ago in what's now Russia.
Back then, all of Earth's land masses were joined together in a supercontinent known as Pangaea. In a period known as Permian, amphibians and early reptiles flourished. Insects were everywhere. Fawn plants dominant for eons were beginning to give way to conifers and ponds. In the ocean, amid vibrant coral reefs, invertebrates and fish inhabited the open water. Then in the geological blink of an eye, it was over. For a period lasting up to thousands of years, countless small eruptions generated several thousand times more lava than Yellowstone, spreading over an area the size of Western Europe. What it brought was not volcano winter, but rather hell on Earth. The atmosphere became choked with carbon dioxide and methane gas. Temperatures around the world soared. The Earth breathed deadly toxins, including high levels of mercury. The oceans turned acidic, their waters depleted of oxygen. By this time, it was over up to 70% of all species on land and 90% of marine species had disappeared. Ecosystem around the planet collapsed in what scientists called the Great Dying, and that was not even the largest volcanic eruptions in Earth's history. For now, the honor goes to an undergo eruption that began thousands of years ago, creating a plateau 30 kilometers thick called Ong Thong Java. It released about 100 million cubic kilometers of magma. Scientists believed large eruptions like Ong Thong Java or Siberian traps occurred when broad regions of magma called large indigenous provinces pushed toward the surface. The earth is popped with dozens of them. They are spread out across all the continents and oceans. Thankfully, these regions have erupted only very rarely in the Earth's history. Super eruptions on the scale of Yellowstone and Tobin, linked to a movement of cluster plates, are more frequent, perhaps thousands of years or so.
Because so little is known about what triggers them, there is no telling when will where the next one will occur. Are we due? Scientists at Yellowstone are watching for early signs: earthquakes, rising heat, the restless turrets of our planets under pressure. Someday, somewhere, the planet will once again vent its rage. When it does, we can be sure that it will change our world forever.
Revelation chapter 6 verse 12 to 17 says, "What happened when the Lord Jesus Christ broke the sixth seal of the scroll? I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every freeman, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hid us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand?"
These verses tell about the great volcanic eruption that will take place in the last days. And the scientific research also tells us that there are great volcanic spots all over the world waiting to erupt. When that happens, it will be exactly like Revelation 6:12 to 17.
What is foretold in the Bible is exactly happening in our lifetime. All these changes in the nature shows us that indeed we are living in the last days. Lord Jesus Christ is coming back very soon.
Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to tune in to Science Lab next time. Remember, signs are happening because Lord Jesus is coming. Maranatha.